Haley Wright, District 1 4-H Youth Development Program Specialist. And today we're going to do a quick training over the 2020 Texas 4-H Opportunity Scholarship. So let's get started. The scholarship program is overseen by the Texas 4-H Youth Development Foundation. So all the resources, guidelines, and the actual application portal will all be found on the foundation website, and we'll check that out here in a bit. An estimated $2.5 million will be given out in scholarships, and approximately 225 scholarships will be given to 4-H members this year. 4-H scholarships are academic scholarships that also have an emphasis on 4-H experience and financial need. We'll take a look at those rubrics as well. A couple changes for this year. Members receiving the Terry Scholarship are not eligible to receive a 4-H Opportunity Scholarship. That's actually a rule that's just going to be continuing. Scholarship interviews are a week earlier than usual. They're going to be conducted in College Station April 24th through the 26th. So go ahead and get those dates marked out on your calendars. Hopefully you'll be in College Station that weekend. There are a few different scholarships available through Texas 4-H. The first being the Baccalaureate. That's for students pursuing a Bachelor of Science degree or a Bachelor of Arts. The next being technical, students pursuing a technical cert. Collegiate, that's for former 4-H members who have completed 30 hours and have a GPA of at least a 2.7. That's a scholarship that hopefully in a couple of years, many of you will be eligible to apply for. And then Courageous Heart. That's for 4-H members who have overcome obstacles related to medical, family, and or education. A couple of those just being any sort of family tragedy or large medical obstacle, an educational obstacle. An example of that would be dyslexia. There's a couple more requirements for the Courageous Heart Scholarship that we can talk about, but our main focus today is going to be the Baccalaureate. General requirements are to be an active 4-H member, that means active on 4-H Connect, and have been an active member at least 2 of the 3 previous years. You have to be a U.S. citizen and a Texas resident, and you have to be graduating this year from a Texas public, private, or homeschool. You also need to be accepted into a Texas college or university by the time of the interview. Complete and pass all standardized tests, an application, and the supplemental documents that go along with it. And then we're really going to dive into those in a minute, so we'll just breeze right through this. Scores for an ACT, the minimum, you have to have a 19, and the SAT, you have to have a 950. I know some colleges allow you to super score your SAT, ACT. We can't do that for the 4-H Opportunity Scholarship. It has to be the one-time score, so no super score combining or averaging scores if you've taken the test more than once. Once you turn in your scholarship, if you continue to take the ACT or SAT, you cannot update your score. So once it's turned in, there's actually no updates that can be made to your scholarship application, including your test scores. You need to be in the upper half of your class for the first 3.5 years of your high school. So what's being recorded and the information that the scholarship will take is only your first 7 semesters of high school. So your last semester of your senior year is not accounted for. That's information that we'll worry about once we have interviews. It's just saying that Houston will not give scholarships to anyone who has already received more than $90,000 in total financial aid and scholarship. For the technical scholarship, you must not be planning to continue a formal education at a college or university after the completion of your technical program. Courageous Heart, you can't meet those minimum requirements of SAT or ACT or GPA requirements. So you would need to have lower than a 19, a 950, lower than a 3.5 GPA, or not be in the first half of your class. You can't apply for the Courageous Heart and the other Texas 4-H Opportunity Scholarships, and you have to have written documentation of your obstacles. The maximum scholarship value for a Courageous Heart is $5,000. We're not going to worry about that today. Okay, let's get into the scoring system. Again, we're going to be focusing right here. So I don't want anyone to get too discouraged if your SAT, ACT, or your GPA is not quite where you want it to be, because as you can see, 50%, 50 points of your scoring on your scholarship comes from your 4-H experience. So as long as this is strong, there's no reason to get too disappointed or too stressed out, because that's going to account for half of the maximum points awarded. The scholarship process. Right now we're here. The scholarship application has been released. 4-H members are working on applications, getting those ready to submit the application. After all applications are submitted, that deadline is February 14th. All the applications in the state will be verified and certified and then begin being judged. After your applications have been judged, they will select who is going to be asked to come back and interview for a scholarship. They'll notify those who are going to be able to interview and those who are not. And then you will interview. You'll have your interview in College Station, and then you'll find out if you were selected for a scholarship, and if so, what scholarship. So we can just get it out now. Just because you're invited back for an interview and you interview for a scholarship, it does not mean you are guaranteed a scholarship. There are going to be a handful of members that possibly don't receive a scholarship even though they interviewed. But on the flip side, getting scholarships, the minimum that you're going to get is $3,000. So if you get a scholarship, you know you're at least getting $3,000 and up to $20,000. That's extremely exciting. Okay, so the 2020 application is online. Those of you who maybe have had older siblings or older children apply for the scholarship, you know in the past we mailed in hard copies. Last year we uploaded PDFs via 4-H Connect. This year we're going to be using a new portal that's on the Foundation website, and I think that's where I'm just going to take us next, and let's go ahead and explore that portal. This is 4-H Youth Development Foundation website. This right here is where you're going to go to get the rules and guidelines and to apply. So I already have rules and guidelines pulled up, and that's basically what the PowerPoint I just showed you is based off of. I'll go ahead and show y'all this just so you know what it looks like. This is a great tool. I encourage you to print this off, and this is going to be your holy grail throughout your scholarship application process. This right here has all the general requirements we went over. Right here, this is very important, due dates and deadlines for 2020. While we're on due dates and deadlines, I'll tell you some counties might have their own deadlines in order for the agent to verify your scholarship. There's an agent verification form. That's a requirement. So you need to be in communication with your county extension agents and know what their deadlines are and make sure you're meeting those. Those of you wanting district review, I am excited to be able to provide that this year. So for my first round of review, I'll need to have scholarships by January 1st. If you would like me to review your scholarship, I won't make any changes. I'll send you a list of suggestions. Please have those to me by January 1st. In a minute, we'll talk about how you can share your scholarship with me. I'll also do another review of scholarships. That's going to be for when, if you feel your scholarship has all the attachments and the supplemental documents, and it could be submitted and you just want someone to look over one last time before you hit submit. I'll be doing those sort of reviews as well, but in order to do those reviews, I need you to share your scholarship with me by February 1st. So my dates are January 10th and February 1st for District 1 scholarship reviews at the district level, but please be in communication with your county extension agents about some county deadlines that may exist. There's deadlines, general requirements, the description of the 4 different types of scholarships that we're able to offer, scoring system, some different requirements for each of the different scholarships. Obviously, San Antonio is also a scholarship donor in the 4-H Foundation. Those aren't listed just because they don't have specific donor criteria. Okay, let's go back over to the Foundation website. So here's how you access the portal. You're going to go the down scholarship, pick which one you're applying for. Hit this apply here. Right here you see the guidelines, a verification form, how to apply. It'll take you step by step through the portal and some frequently asked questions about the portal. But y'all can check those out for yourselves. It already has my information saved. Created just a example account. Great, so here it takes you. Before we dive into my application, you'll see that I have 3 collaboration requests. What those are is a few D1 kiddos who have already asked me to be a collaborator, and that's how I'm going to be able to view your scholarship and give you some feedback. So I go right here to edit application. For Perfect. So if you want me to be able to edit your application, it's this collaborate button right here. You hit it and you type in my email address. There's no limit to how many people that you can have collaborating with you. Well, I say that. I'm pretty sure there's not a limit because I've actually added up to 3 different emails to collaborate on mine and it didn't stop me. So you can have an agent, a parent, whoever else, and if you choose to add me as a collaborator, that would be great. So you'll type in my email, that's my email right there, click invite, and that would allow me to be a collaborator. So after you ask me to collaborate, if you're wanting me to review your scholarship, I need you to also send me a personal email outside of this portal, and just say, hi, my name is such and such county. I've sent you a collaboration request. I'm ready for you to review my scholarship. And just as long as you do that, by January 1, I'll be able to send you back some feedback pretty quick and suggestions. So if you have questions on how to get district review on your scholarship, feel free to shoot me an email if I didn't make that clear, or ask your county extension agent. Okay, so here is what the portal looks like. The first sections are just personal information. Everyone will be putting District 1, that's it in District 1. Put your county, I use Dallin County as an example, the name of your club, how many years you've been enrolled in 4-H, including this year, the name of your county extension agent, and your agent info. Guys, make sure, I can't stress this enough, that you have at least communicated with your county extension agent, and they know that you've utilized their email and their information, and they know that you're going to be expecting them to fill out the Cda Verification Form. And I'll show you what that looks like. You press the link. There we go, it did pop up. It's your responsibility to give this to your agent. They'll fill it out. It'd be nice if this typed in part. Type that in, please. It'll just look nicer. Then your agent will fill out the rest and a signature, and it's up to you to upload it. So just to make sure we're clear there. But that's what that form looks like. Okay, and then you'll list your universities. So we have a drop-down menu that you can choose your schools from, your top choice and your second choice. There is no out-of-state schools listed. It's all Texas universities. So that means you need to list. You might have an out-of-state university that's in your top 2 choices, but for this scholarship purposes, you need to only list in-state universities. And before I go any further from here, I want everyone to know that this scholarship application can be a lot like a livestock show and a lot like a record book contest. There's a lot of personal opinion that goes into this, and personal preference. There's a rubric, but there's not a set way of things and ways you have to do that. So I am going to be sharing some personal opinion. All that I've shared up to this point is guidelines, the way the scholarship needs to be. From this point, I'll be sharing some personal opinion and professional experience and opinion. So just keep that in mind, take it with a grain of salt, and know that your agents might have a different opinion, and that's okay. And you need to weigh out those opinions and decide what you think is best. I'm just here to offer my advice. So my advice would be, of course, you have to fill in a Texas school here as your first choice, but in your essay, even if your top choice is, let's just say, OSU, you need to be talking as if your first choice is a Texas university, because this scholarship is only applicable to Texas schools. So for this scholarship purposes, your first and second choice need to be Texas schools. Also, you need to be accepted into one college or university at the time of interview. In my professional opinion, I think it's ideal that at the time of application, you are accepted into your first choice. So let's just say my first choice was Texas Tech, and my second choice was A&M, but I had not been accepted to Tech yet, and I had been accepted to A&M. I would probably switch them and make it look to where my first choice I had been accepted. There's no rule that says it has to be that way. Again, that's my personal opinion. I think maybe it just looks a little better if you have been accepted into your first choice. I got the question the other day in the live video, do they have to put down an ag major? No, that's the only scholarship that is a requirement for is the Fort Worth Syndicate. None of the rest of them are majors of study. So put down what you're passionate about and what major you are planning on going into. Just questions there. Okay, upload your official high school transcript. So you'll need to wait probably, I don't know everyone's school schedule, but until early January, because you have to have your 7 semesters of high school on that transcript. But so once you get back from Christmas, I'd be in communication with your counselor or whomever you would be getting that official transcript from to upload. It's a requirement that you submit either an SAT or ACT score. So let's say you're going to do, I chose ACT, I put an ACT score here, and I would upload a PDF of that printout from ACT that has my information and my score on there. I didn't take the SAT, so I'm not going to put a 0. I'm just going to leave it blank. It makes that pretty clear right there. Ranking and GPA verification. This is where you're going to be working with a school administrator, such as your counselor, maybe your principal, whoever's in charge of that. What's neat about this portal is you can email them directly from the portal. I put my email in there as if I were a school counselor, and then you can compose an email, type something along the lines of, I'm applying for the Texas 4-H scholarship opportunity. I've listed your email to verify my GPA. We fill out a form that will be sent to you from the Texas 4-H Foundation. So once you email them, they're going to get an email from the Texas 4-H Foundation with a form that they need to fill out, verifying your GPA and your class rank, and sign. And then once they fill that out, it would give you a notification. Here, let me show y'all. Maybe it's going to show y'all. Let's see. Go back if I'll show y'all. Okay, right here on when we first came in, this third parties, it says 0 of 1 because I sent myself that email, and then Texas 4-H Foundation sent me a form that I need to fill out. Whenever your counselor or whomever fills out that form and submits it back to the 4-H Foundation, back to this portal, it would say third parties 1 of 1. If they have not got it done yet, it's going to say 0 of 1 right there. So you'll be able to check and see when they get that done. But here's the deal. After you email this to whomever, it would be ideal for you to stop by their office and let them know you sent it and that you're needing them to fill out that form. So the 4-H Foundation will send them a couple of reminders to get that form filled out, but you need to be watching to see when that form gets filled out and probably make a personal visit and let them know that you need that done for your scholarship. Financial information, you would put your FAFSA score there, upload your student aid report from your FAFSA. Right. Okay, next we get into truly the components of your application. So you're going to have 3 narratives: your financial narrative, your personal narrative, and your career narrative. And then you're going to have a few sections that, if you've done a 4-H record book, they're going to look awfully familiar. Your project experience section, your leadership experience section, citizenship and community service, your awards and honors, and your outside 4-H. If you've done a record book, you're going to be really thankful right now because this is going to transition very nicely. If you haven't, don't just get discouraged. It's going to take a little more time for you, but there's definitely a way to do it. If you're younger listening to this training, I can't stress enough for you to do a record book, if for no other reason than to make this scholarship process so much easier your senior year. I'm going to start talking about the narratives here. So we'll just scroll back up and we'll start with the financial narrative. So what you're going to do your narratives is you're going to type them in a Word document, or if you're using a map book, maybe Pages, and then copy and paste your narrative into here. Once you copy and paste it, if you have over 3,500 characters, it's still going to let you put all your words, but this little box is going to be red, and it's going to say you're at 4,000 and 3,500 characters, and you need to shorten it. Don't let that box be red and submit. Obviously, I don't know, because this is a new portal and I'm not actually submitting a scholarship, if it'll let you submit and you're over. But if it does, I'm going to assume it's just not going to print out some of your words and your narrative isn't going to make sense. So just make sure you're aware of this and make sure you're within your character limits. They give you a few hints up here about what to include in your narratives, but I'm going to give y'all some opinion from past experience with these scholarships. So now I'm going to show a few examples of some past scholarship recipients and their narratives, and talk a little bit about what goes into those narratives. So stay with me as we switch screen. hopefully that was pretty painless. So here's an example of what the scholarship application used to look like. You would type your narrative on document or get to us with this heading. There's no heading for any of that now, so don't be worried about that. You're just copy and pasting the content of your narrative in there. Also in the past, you'll see we were able to bold some things, italics, underline impact statements, just make our narratives a little more impactful and make sure whoever was judging these saw the parts we wanted them to see. There's no doing that in this new portal, so don't worry about it. Don't try and copy and paste bold stuff or underlined phrases. I wouldn't want it to mess with the formatting and make it look too funky. So just type it plain Jane. As always, if we're copy and pasting into a portal, it's going to space it the way it wants it. It's going to put it in its text. But just to avoid some spacing issues, use Times New Roman in like a 12-point font. It will copy and paste really well, and you shouldn't have crazy spacing issues where the lines look crazy. There's going to be hundreds and hundreds of scholarships submitted, and they're narrowing it down to around 230-ish to be interviewed. And so just imagine looking at that many scholarships and knowing that they can't spend hours on each scholarship to really dig into each scholarship application. So your application has to be impactful, it has to be memorable, and it has to really showcase you as a 4-H'er. So every narrative is going to need to have catchy intros to catch the eye of the reader, of the judge, and make them actually want to read narrative, interested in reading your narrative. So a catchy intro always, you can kind of read what this girl did a little bit. She has a catchy intro. She doesn't just come out and say that I would like this scholarship because, or my financial need is, or I deserve the scholarship because. Nope, none of that. The financial narrative can be awkward. It's not always something that people enjoy talking about or writing about, and it's just weird to put your personal information out there a little bit. But I will say, no matter, we can all think of ways that we are more blessed than others, and we can think of people who certainly have less than us, and it's easy for us to maybe think we aren't as financially deserving in support as other people might be. But I'm here to say every single person has a financial need. College is expensive. It's expensive for everyone, so don't write yourself off as not having a need. I'll give a few examples of things that you could include in your financial narrative. If you have multiple siblings who have already been in college, siblings who your parents are trying to put through college right now, or younger siblings who may be also attending college later on, that's a financial need that needs to be talked about. If there's been career struggles in the family, if parents have been let go due to the economy or downsizing, that is something that can be talked about. If there's been tragedies or giant obstacles within your family, medical obstacles, those are all things that can be discussed as well. One thing I suggest is doing some research and letting these judges know you have done research and giving a approximate estimate of your 4-year degree at your first choice university. So you'll see that right here. She broke it out by each semester, and then a 4-year degree would be approximately over $100,000. So I think that is something to include so that they know you're very aware of what the cost is. I also think it's important that they know you never want something to come off as you're not going to work for it and you're not going to do your part. If you've been working during high school or during your summers, I think it's important to include that. If you've been saving, I think it's great to include that. You can always just say, and this is probably true for anyone, when you look at your savings account, it doesn't align with the cost of a higher education. There's a gap there. I think it's really great to be willing to work part-time in college. And you can reverse that too with saying the scholarship would allow me to work part-time and give me greater opportunity to be involved in campus organizations or professional development organizations or spend more time focusing on my studies. Anything like that. I also think in this essay I like when students make themselves look like a wise or a safe investment for Texas 4-H. And this is 4-H specialist in me, and it's going to sound a little cheesy, but I think it's very important in every narrative that you somewhere in a sentence or in 2 sentences tie it back to 4-H. Every narrative needs to have a 4-H positive, go green undertone to it. And by that I mean it could be something in this scholar or in this narrative that you can guarantee the characteristics that you have learned through 4-H would make you an asset, a wise investment for Texas 4-H. So your responsibility, your dedication, some of those leadership traits and characteristics that 4-H has given you. For example, this young lady was in pursuit of becoming a nurse. She said, I've been given so much from 4-H, opportunities, friends, skills, confidence, passion. It's my ultimate goal to be able to give to others in that same way. So I think it's great she compared what 4-H has given to her and that she's on a pursuit to be able to give back to others. So just make sure you have a little 4-H spirit in all your narratives. The people reading these applications and scoring your application are people who work for 4-H. They're specialists. They're county extension agents, and so they love 4-H and they want to see that you love 4-H. They want to see that 4-H has made an impact on you. I'll show y'all another example of a financial narrative. This young lady's mom has a chronic disease that provides a financial burden for them. She talked about that in her financial needs narrative. I've also seen many parents can be agriculture based or might be self-employed. That can sometimes be a financial burden to be self-employed, to not always have salary and a steady, constant income. Or if they're ag-based, I mean, sometimes your income depends on a fluctuating market for your family. That's also something that can be included. This scholarship is a few years old, and this young lady had a great scholarship and ended up with a $20,000 scholarship. But since then, I've looked at many scholarships, and that one, make the best better, and ultimately I'll make the best better, is really overused in narratives. So I'm sure we thought we were being really clever and catchy to put that in her narrative, but trust me, everyone has thought of it. So avoid that overused motto in your narrative. I guarantee you, everyone else is putting that in their narrative too. So the next narrative that we'll go ahead and look at is my personal favorite, and I think probably one of the most important narrative, and that is your personal narrative. Again, we can't do anything fancy because you're just copying and pasting into the portal. Your personal narrative is something that needs to highlight yourself. It needs to highlight some of how you got into 4-H, your history in 4-H, and some of your highlights and most important and impactful moments or projects of your 4-H experience. It's really important in this narrative. You'll see it on the portal. One of the rules is do not say your name. So it can be, hello, my name is Bailey Wright. I started 4-H in 3rd grade. Don't say your name. They specifically say in this narrative, but I'm going to say it's going to be best practice not to say your name in any of your narratives. This one is different from the other two narratives, in my opinion, in the way that it needs to be strongly themed. I think this is a very defining part of your scholarship application. This is a way for you to allow the people reading your application to really get to know you and know who you are and know your 4-H journey. But again, they're reading tons of these. They need a way to relate, to know who you are. So for instance, this young lady talks about 4-H has been the compass to her life. It's helped given her direction. And we kind of chose that because her last name was West, so northeast, southwest. And to me, in my mind, when they read this, they can recall her and remember her, like, oh yes, the compass girl, like, and they have a way to recall her and recall her scholarship, and she hopefully made a little bit of an impact on them. So I think a theme is pretty important in this narrative, just to set yourself apart. It says you can talk about maybe your 4-H history or how you got into 4-H. I would not make this necessarily a timeline of 4-H and say, I entered in 3rd grade. These were the projects I did throughout my junior years. My intermediate years, I did these projects. My senior years, I did these projects. I don't think that's the point of it here. I think you can talk a little bit, if you want to talk a little history, if it's, I think you talk about the first couple of goats she ever showed, or if you want to talk about 4-H is a family tradition, so you got into it that way, or maybe it wasn't, and you learned about 4-H in 8th grade, and it opened a whole new world to you. I think that's great, but don't make this narrative a timeline. I would say you can highlight maybe 3 high points of your 4-H career. Those don't necessarily have to be your biggest successes, your biggest awards. Maybe one of them is a really great success or achievement you had. Maybe one of them's a project that has led you to your life passion, or that just opened so many doors, or that became just your thing. Or maybe one of them's a really cool experience or cool trip you got to go on. But maybe the three biggest impacts of your 4-H career. Again, this one to me has got to be heavy 4-H. They obviously want to get to know about you, but in my opinion, it needs to be about you within your 4-H career. If I were judging these, I would want to, after I read this, man, 4-H just define that young person's youth and their life up until this point, and they are all in on 4-H, which I know there are many life-defining aspects of our lives and many things that have shaped y'all into the person you are. But in this narrative, for this purpose, let's focus it 4-H, definitely. But heavy themed, and just highlight some of your most impactful areas of 4-H or experiences in 4-H. I will say, while we're here on this one, these narratives probably look a little different. They're a different style than what you've been taught in your high school English classes. That's pretty 4-H. Y'all are 4-Hers, you'll know we have just a different way of doing things in 4-H. And so it's the same with this narrative. I do encourage you to have many people read your narratives, read your scholarships, look for those grammatical errors, because we need to speak grammatically very clean, very correct. But so I encourage you to have your high school English teacher or people like that read your scholarship. But do know it is a little bit different of a style of writing. It might seem a little fluffy to people who aren't experienced with 4-H scholarships. So listen to your agents, listen to those longtime 4-H volunteers, those people who have experience with 4-H scholarships. They probably know the style of these narratives a little better. Okay, and the other narrative is your career narrative. Again, all of these narratives have got to have a catchy intro that pulls them in. In this narrative, I think you can list any visits to colleges or universities, any connections you've already made at colleges, any job or career experiences that you've had. That could be you researching a future career you might want to go into. That could be if you have worked in high school. I think you could include that here. If you're taking classes in high school that have been really career driven or helped you decide what your career might be, if you've job shadowed people. Let's talk dual credit courses for a minute. I think there's two places you can really highlight some of your dual credit work. I think it can be in your career narrative if it's dual credit classes that were career driven, that were pertinent to an industry or a career that you see yourself in. If maybe they weren't really career driven, they were just like your college basics, I think you could include that in your financial narrative and spin it in the way of one way that you've already tried to lessen or ease the financial burden is by taking your basics in high school, because we do know those dual credit classes are a deal. They're a little cheaper than a normal college course would be. So that's kind of, I got that question. Where do you put your dual credit? I think it can either be career narrative or financial narrative. Also, persons or experiences that have influenced you to pursue a degree or reason you know why you're going to that college. Let's just talk that for a minute. I think that right there, persons or experiences that have influenced you. Again, we've got to really pump up 4-H here in this scholarship in some way, shape, or form. Either where you're going to college, your degree, or the career you see yourself in needs to relate to 4-H. Maybe you want to go to West Texas A&M, and the fact that we hold Big Fun and D1 on the campus has just really made you feel at home at WT, or opened the doors for you to meet professors there. Or maybe it's an experience you had in your fashion and interior design ambassador. Being a fashion interior design ambassador led you to your degree path, or makes you know that you really want to be in the fashion industry. That's my personal opinion, that somehow your 4-H experiences need to connect in this narrative to either your college, your major, or your possible future career. Also, in the past, the scholarship asked you to pick a career of what you want to be. They no longer do that, and I think that's great, because it's hard at 17, 18 to choose a career and say, this is what I want to do. You might know, and that's great if you do know 100% what you want to do, or even you feel confident knowing what you want to do. Talk about it. That's great. Let's say you might be a little more open and not know what you want to do, but you might know, I want to go into the health industry, or I want to go into the agriculture industry or teaching. You can be a little more broad. Don't feel that you have to be super specific here, but my personal advice is that it really needs to relate into 4-H. You need to have the financial and career narrative don't have to be nearly as strongly themed as the personal narrative, but at least some catchy opening there. And I'll show you the other example of personal and career narratives. Here's another example of a personal narrative. And again, there's a theme here. And here's another example of the career narrative. These narratives are very, very different, but they do have some commonalities. The personal narratives get pretty creative and probably less commonalities, but they highlight what's important about 4-H to them. The career narratives, they tie 4-H. One of them ties back to where she wants to go. One of them ties it back to what she wants to be. And I think that's extremely important. They all mention where they're going, how they decided on that college, what their major is, and kind of where they see themselves and how 4-H has got them there. So that's the narratives. Just make sure there's questions that they're asking you to answer, and you'll see those on the portal because we no longer have this heading. But just make sure you are answering those questions, but still that you're really getting across who you are and you're making some impact for that reader, and that reader is going to be excited to read your narrative. Okay, now we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk more about the sections of the application. Okay, so your project page, it's going to be very similar to what you're used to seeing in your Reddit, but before we get there, on these sections, we have sections and we have narratives. On the sections, you have the option to either copy and paste into here or type into here in this box or upload a PDF file. In my personal opinion, it's not an option. You've got to upload a PDF file. This is not going to format well. When it prints out, it's not going to look nearly as nice, nearly as professional. And when you have several hundred applications and they're having to cut hundreds of applications, it does get down to the nitty-gritty sometimes, and we need to be making sure we're sending the best application possible in order to get us that interview spot. And I just think you've got to upload. To me, the only thing that you should be copy and pasting into these boxes is your narratives, because you have to do that. We've got to upload formatted charts, in my personal opinion. So I'm not even going to talk about formatting in these boxes. I'm going to show y'all charts. So for the projects section, you can list up to 4 projects. In my opinion, you need to list 4 projects. Some people might think, oh man, I just don't know if I have 4 for each project. I'm going to encourage you to talk to your agents. I think sometimes it's easier as agents when we're working with you to know them a little better and know what projects they're competing in. Almost every 4-Her has 2 projects that you're probably strong in, that are your really strong projects, but also every 4-Her typically has a leadership project. You probably typically have a citizenship project as well. You're involved in so much community service, but I bet your agent can help you identify what your 4 projects are. Some of you might have 8 projects. There's not a place in the scholarship application like there is in your record book to list your other projects. You are limited to 4. You can only do 4. So pick your 4 biggest, your 4 strongest projects. So I'll show y'all some examples of project pages. This is, to me, the section that can differ the most in formatting. To me, things that need to happen, you obviously need to label your project, and I think you can either do the years you were involved in, or she could have said rabbits 10 years, how long you've done it, or both. That's up to you. But to me, the main things that need to, whatever chart you do, you need to have what you did and what you got from it. So she has her project description here. She has rabbits, some different things she did within her project, and then she shows you knowledge and skills gained. This is for what level it was at: S state, L local, C county, D district, and then N would be national, I would be international. And in the format they gave the example on the portal, they do have these, and they are going to recognize these, so there's no need to make a key. And I would definitely label what level you did it at. I think that if they're giving that as an example, we need to include it in our formatting. Oh, and so your uploaded pages are all limited to 1 page. So you have to fit your 4 projects on 1 page. So all those sections where we're going to upload a PDF, it cannot be more than 1 page. This is not a rule. This is my personal opinion that we should keep the text no color. Don't use any color, in my professional opinion. We should keep the text pretty basic. I would do Times New Roman, no smaller than 10-point font, no larger than 12-point font. I think you can get that on what's going to look best on the page. I think on this project page, try and fill the page. As far as margins go, I think you can either use normal margins, the normal setting. I think that's 1/2 inch all the way around. Or if you have a lot that needs to be fit, maybe the narrow margins. This might be narrow. I would not do the wide margins where there's really thick white all the way around. I think that will just look like a lot of blank space. So there's one example of a project page. Let's look at a few more because those pages really differ in terms of formatting. Oh, here's another project page. Her chart's a little different. She had the years she did these individual, so her main, okay, and start with your biggest, best project first, and work your way down to your smaller projects. That's exactly how it should look. It should really look like a funnel. Your biggest, best stuff up top, down to maybe your smaller, less impactful projects. She has the name of her project, how long she did it for. Then she individually dated the things she did. Looking back now, I wouldn't have had her do that. I would have just put 7 years here, and taken those dates. I don't know. Because really, she did that so every year of her beef project. She could have been doing that every year of her beef project. I just think that's a little repetitive. Doesn't look as strong right there, those dates. Then she did the importance of that, so the importance of each one. Whereas the other one we looked at kind of did the importance and the results of the project as a whole. Either way is great. She included her level over here. It just shows you a different example of formatting. Both are good. Both of those had $20,000 scholarships. A couple more. Maybe I can, oh, it's over here actually. This is one that I do like quite a bit. Let me make sure I'm sharing this page. Okay, now I think that y'all can see this page. This is a chart, a way of formatting that I like quite a bit. It has the years involved and then how up here, different activities that went into his project, what level he did it at, the importance and impact over there. I like the way this one's formatted personally. I think it looks good on the page. It looks clean. It still looks like he had quite a bit. I probably would have switched these two to follow the funnel method. And y'all are going to hear me talk about putting your most important best stuff up top the whole way through on every one of these sections. I think because the people looking at these applications might be going pretty fast, we need our best stuff up top. We need that to be the first thing they see. But that's just another way to format that I like. Then let's look at a couple more. Here's another one. Again, I would have taken these dates off there. I just don't like the way that looks. She did it individually as well. I do like that she had an importance, then an impact down here, but I don't think that's necessarily necessary. There's another style, and I think I have one more style I can show y'all. Maybe not. That was the 4 styles, but just four different styles there. I think we need to decide what looks best for your project. It's going to look best on your page, and this one's a little more personal opinion. Let's go on to the next section. I'm going to go to the leadership section next. To me, it's a lot less flexible in the way that it looks. We'll just start here. You basically, again, this is another one you'll PDF, so none of this is up here. Same thing as I talked about on the other page. Normal margins, Times New Roman, no smaller than 10, no larger than 12. Keep it clean. Okay, so on these you will be able to do, obviously, you'll be able to do charts, some bolding, some underlining if needed. Same on all the sections that you're going to upload as PDFs. Make sure you upload them as PDFs, not a Word document or Pages or whatever you're using. It's just it's safer to upload them as PDFs, and they look better, definitely. Leadership. Again, you'll do your leadership role. This is pretty identical to the chart that comes out of the record book. I would not get far off that. I wouldn't make it a crazy chart. I would stick pretty close to that record book leadership chart. It's what we're used to seeing leadership in. It's clean. It's easy to read. I think we need to keep it that way. So as far as dates, see, I don't love this one. I wish I would have caught that better. I think it needs to go from most recent to the furthest away to the longest time ago. But within that, so like I would have wanted up here things that she did up until 2018, up until she graduated, right up here at the top. But within that, it needs to be your biggest, best thing. And maybe that's why we did hers this way. I can't remember. It's been a few years because she was council president. We put it up here. But I think it needs to be your most recent stuff and the best stuff at that. Because, again, you want them to see your best stuff first. In any of these sections, specifically leadership, community service, and your honors and awards, I don't think we need to include anything that isn't a high school experience. Leave out your junior high experiences. Leave out your elementary experiences. Those are great, and I know those created personal growth for you, but we need to focus on the things that you did most recently in high school. And I think it's great to include, you have big, awesome stuff, or you might, from your freshman and sophomore year. Don't be scared to use that. It doesn't all have to be from your senior year, but I do think it all needs to be from your high school career. And so you do what you did, level of involvement, again, that same key. There's no reason to include a key. They basically said they're going to acknowledge that. And then your role, responsibility, duty, or accomplishment. I do think it's good to include this elected, appointed, volunteered, or promotional. Again, those 4 things that we use from record book, I would include those. And it's great to have a mix of all of them. Sometimes it's hard to think of promotional things that you did, but try and make sure you have some of them. I think that looks really nicely, really nice. Over here, you'll see there's a couple things I didn't catch now that I'm looking back at it. And this is nitpicky, I get that. But we should have been more consistent. We put a period here and then never put periods anywhere else. Whatever you choose to do, be consistent. That's nitpicky, but formatting can definitely play a role. So there's that leadership experience page. You'll see there's a ton of difference between the project pages, but there's not that much difference between the leadership page because we pretty much need to stick to what they give us. So here's hers right here. Pretty much looks the same. Again, you're not going over a page here, but they also limit you to how many you include. Let's double check that limit. So that's hers. And hers, obviously, this young lady graduated in 2017. There was things that she had done for multiple years, and I think that's fine. And hers, I don't think we organized in chronological order either. We did most important to least important, and I don't think that's a bad way to do it either. I just like when we have dates for them to line up better. But again, that's very much some personal preference stuff right there. I would definitely choose your best leadership experiences. I have one more I can show y'all. So y'all see how similar. In his, we definitely did it in chronological order, but within that year, we did what we thought was more important up top. Again, so within those years, we did what we thought more important was up top. I like that in chronological order, but that might be a little bit of my OCD coming out. Okay, so it says in our leadership section, leadership roles, you can list up to 20. So yes, you have a full page to use, but just because you can fit 22 doesn't mean you can. You can only put 20 there. And because you might be typing some out here in your description, you might only be able to fit 17. Here's where I stand. I think 17 really good strong ones is just fine. I would not include less than 15, and I would definitely try to fill up your whole page. So you can't do more than 20, but in my personal opinion, you shouldn't do less than 15, and you should try to fill up the page on that leadership page. Section. And then the next one would be your community service page. We're allowed to list up to 15 of your citizenship and community service activities. So let's take a look at some ways to format those. And it's going to be pretty consistent as well. So again, in the past and in our record books, we put awards and community service on the same page. It is not that way for the scholarship. They are 2 separate sections. So let's make sure we've been 15 community services that you're allowed to use. Again, I think we need to stay as close to that record book chart as possible. For consistency, for clear, clean, concise looking charts that are very easy to read. You have when you did it, the activity, your role in the activity. They're going to recognize the scholarship. Committee is going to recognize those same roles of M, Y, and P. Whether you did it as a member of a group, you performed it on your own, or you're the primary leader in that group. And so something we've done a lot in the past is how many hours you spent in that community service. seeing some record books this summer. I actually like people reached more than I like hours, but that is personal preference too. But I think instead of putting 10 hours, they donated school supplies to an elementary that serves 200 kids. He could say 200 people reached. I like that better, but that's personal opinion there. So there's also, we get questions a lot about what goes on the leadership page versus what goes on the community service page, just because sometimes, like here, it was a primary. Also, I wish I would have caught this. I think you don't need to do MMP because obviously if you were the primary, you were a part of that group. So I would have just had him do P there. And really the Y and M. Really in this, your role is either you did it as a member of a group, you did it solo, or you led the activity. So really there's no reason for them to double up like that. But so let's say he was the primary leader. He organized game night at the Legacy. I understand that took leadership skills on his part, and he played a leadership role there. But ultimately, it was a community service, and sometimes it's hard to get this P. It's hard to think of things that you were a primary leader of when it comes to community service. So I think if it's community service in any way, shape, or form, it needs to go over here. And again, you have 15 to use here. I would definitely try and get all 15 community services. And it's probably only going to take up half a page or so, but I would definitely try and get all 15. We can look at a couple others just so y'all can see. That's a pretty similar looking page. She didn't put people reached or hours spent. I would have liked for her to. Yeah, neither did this one. I would have liked for us to do there, but they didn't double up on this, and I like that. Don't double up on those. And make sure it's going to be good for you to have a spread. Make sure you have a couple, I would say at least 2 of each one. Don't have all Y's or all M's and no P's. Make sure you have a couple P's. There's one more I can show y'all. Nope. Oh yeah, here we go. No, where are we at? There we go. And she did the hours over here. Again, this was when they were just allowed the page allowance, but now you have one full page for community service, and you can list up to 15. So I would have wanted her to do all 15 of those there. So the next section that will be separate, even though in years past it hasn't been, is your honors and awards, but it's going to stay the same. You can only list 4 honors and awards. And I'll be brutally honest here. When it comes to choosing what awards you want to do, I know sometimes that 6th place goat at the county stock show was your favorite goat ever, and you worked so hard, and that is an award or an honor that means so much. It might mean that to you. And I love that. I hope it does. I love that so much because that just shows your character and shows that the experience is worth it. But for the sake of this scholarship application, my personal opinion is that you need to do your 4 most outstanding awards here. Those of you that are recipients of the Gold Star, I think that award has to be included because it is a state award and it is the top honor in which a Texas 4-H member can receive. So pick your 4 best awards. I know or your honors. I know that they'll mean a lot to you. And I think if you have a Gold Star award, you definitely need to include that there. I was asked about sometimes there's things like becoming a livestock ambassador is an honor. It is something that's hard to do and you're accepted in it. But I would not list it here. Stuff like that needs to be listed in leadership, and you can't duplicate stuff. So you can't put livestock ambassador in leadership and then put it here as an honor. They don't want any duplications in your application. That goes the same way for community service and leadership. You can't put something in the leadership section and in the community service section. Don't repeat anything. So make sure what you're putting in this section is truly awards. Don't put stuff like you were elected at district council. That all needs to go in leadership. So you can only do 4 here. I want to get too crazy in this section. This is probably only going to take up a 1/4 of a page, and that's fine. Again, I would keep the same formatting from your record book. Keep it simple. Don't get too crazy there. And I can show you what the others look like as well. All like just that. There's no need to even show you all 4 because that's what they look like. Okay. Another section, outside 4-H experience. This section is more similar to your project experiences in the way that the charts, there's no given chart. they get a little more diverse, a little more creative. Again, though, stick to that Times New Roman 10 to 12 point font, and the goal is to keep it clean and easy to read. We want to see all of your outside involvement. We want to showcase that, but it needs to be in a way that's easy to read and easy to see the significance. So I'll show you some differences here. This girl, I think hers looks very clean. It's really easy to read. She divided up just by every different thing she had done in different roles. So she did organization, role, personal significance, in the years that she did it in. This is while I'm sitting here looking at FFA, this comes to mind, and this is pretty similar to record book, and this is professional experience and opinion here. You know that many 4-H projects complement your FFA projects. Many of your FFA projects and experiences complement those of 4-H, and we love that. We love that those organizations feed off of each other, help each other grow and build. But this is your 4-H application. You don't need to mention FFA anywhere else other than this page of your outside experiences. But on this page, I think it's great to mention all your FFA highlights, achievement, experience. It's great, but it doesn't need to be mentioned anywhere else in your scholarship. Just get that out of the way there. So here you can list student council, sports, church activity, other community organizations, FFA committees you might serve on, National Honor Society, your jobs that you've had, definitely work experience can be mentioned here. So here's a chart example. Let me show you the other examples because they're all pretty different. This one did more of a resume format. I like them both. I don't have a preference probably between the resume format or the chart format. This student in particular went to a smaller school, had plenty of involvement, but I don't know, just maybe not as much involvement as in a million different things. So I think if you're having trouble filling the page, again, here you're limited to one page. I think the resume format makes the page fill up a little easier and look a little fuller. But I think the way she utilized bullet points, it still looks really organized and it's pretty easy, and she did a good job. The rest of them are also charts. They're all very different though. Maybe I can find them. I like this one. Maybe it's a little busy, but this student had a lot of outside 4-H involvement. So he was able to list a lot and put a lot out there, and I think that's great. He organized it. I was my years involved, organization, activity, importance, and impact. But he did leadership activity, outside 4-H honors, employment and work, and then volunteering community activities. He broke it down even further. I like it, but maybe it looks a little busier, but I like the formatting of that. I also probably like the first chart I showed you. Those are probably my favorite too, but I have one more I'll show you. Just to show you some different ways to format. Here's another one that utilized charts. This one's almost a mix of a chart and the resume style formatting. This one's just, it's not my, she has tons of good stuff, and now I can sit here and talk about these scholarships because I helped them with these, but now that I've seen it, several different scholarships over the past few years, I would probably either go with the chart we just saw before this or the very first chart. Those two are my favorite, but all the 4 charts I've shown I've liked, and they're good charts and they got scholarships. So that is the 4 sections. We've gone through the 4 sections. This was a little longer than I intended. Sorry, I got a little off course sometimes and rambled a little bit, but I wanted to make sure and share as much information with you as I possibly could. To me, it's very helpful to see examples of what is expected and to hear other people's personal and professional opinions. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you know that your agents are great resources